Okay, so I invited my friend Katie to talk about Arabs with me, and she has brought a few questions with her to ask me after she has looked over my website. So, what are your questions?
So, first, you talked about the matrix of domination on your website. What, is it like a foundation? What entails the matrix of domination?
Okay, so the Matrix of Domination is a theory by Patricia Collins. She developed it, and it's basically, by definition, corresponding systems of inequality that are interconnected. So it helps explain the inequality of a race, or it can really apply to anything such as gender and social stratification, but it can entail like education, media, crime, family, health, and housing, and
Okay.
how all of that is connected together and how they intertwine and play off of each other.
So, what's the biggest string of connections? Like, how do they connect between like education and housing and like crime or something?
So, for example, to apply it to Arabs, they kind of segregate themselves in housing, so that's not a huge deal for them. But they're a lot of their businesses, they're in poor neighborhoods, and so because they're in poor neighborhoods, they have a bigger rate of crime, and because of that, they're involved more in crime, and the children are involved more in crime, and they usually are going to poor schools, which, kind of guides them into crime, I guess, and yeah.
So, like, from the lack of income from a business and a job, they don't have as good as housing environment, which may lead to bad neighborhoods, which may lead to crime, and also branches off to like lower education because of the less amount of money they have, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. So, about their work environment, like, how would you say it's different between like Arabs and whites here in the United States?
So the difference between Arabs and whites are, they're known as the more dominant race here in the United States, and so they have most of the higher positions and jobs, and they have more authority, and Arabs have a hard time with jobs because what's the first thing you think of when you think of an Arab?
Terrorists.
You think of a terrorist, yeah. So many people think of terrorists, and when people are employing them, they have a hard time getting past that. They have a hard time seeing that they're not really terrorists. I mean, there's not everyone's good. There's some bad people, obviously, but you can't generalize all of them and stereotype everyone just because of their race. So when they, in the job or work environment, they're harassed a lot. Or when they are hired, they're harassed a lot, verbally abused, and many times, just because of the way they look or the sound of their name, they won't be hired. And I was reading a story about a lady. She had an interview with this guy, a phone interview, and the guy was super excited to hire her and have her work there with her because of all their experience. But when she finally came in for the job, he turned her down just because she wore a headdress, and because he associated that with Arabs, which he associated with terrorists and violence, and he did not want that in his workplace.
That is so sad.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is only a problem going on in the United States, or do you think that do you think it's the worst in the United States, or do you think it's a common problem everywhere besides the Middle East?
I think you will find racism everywhere, but I think in the United States, specifically for Arabs, there's a lot of discrimination because of the 9/11 attack. And before the 9/11 attack, Arabs didn't have that much of a problem. They kind of intermingled with everyone else. They had their own businesses. They were really like on their own, and they didn't have any problem. But after 9/11, people associated them with, or the attackers with Arabs, and so I think in the United States it's a big deal. There's a lot of discrimination against them because of that. And I've never been to another country, but I assume that
maybe it's not as bad
yeah.
there because of the specific events that have happened.
There's been more specific events. And our media plays into that a lot as well. Our media portrays Arabs as a lot of different things, like the belly dancers and the sheiks but the big one is that they're associated with violence and terrorism.
Is it because, like, was Al-Qaeda, were they Arabs, or, like, weren't they, like,
they're from
Muslim? Or is it
Middle
just
East? It's the Al-Qaeda is extremist group, I guess.
Okay. So it's just because, like, geographically they're around the same area as those terrorists, so that's why they're associated?
There are some Arabs that are associated with it. There are some.
But it's like a really big generalization.
Yeah, it's a big, not all Arabs are that way. You can say that for anyone, really. So, 6:46. Do you have any other questions?
Oh yeah, I saw on your website. Okay, back to the matrix of domination. Are there actually like societies and foundations set up, or like movements set up in the United States to stop Arab racism?
I think there's
because this is just a theory, right? Like this isn't an actual like.
So domination is a theory. Yeah.
Okay.
But I've read about like Arabs stick up for themselves. Like they go and they're trying to stop it, and they speak out about it all the time. I read articles about, for example, Arabs. A big thing a big struggle that they face here is the airports and the security in the airports. And after the 9/11 attack, they really cracked down on that because obviously the airplane thing. So they really cracked down on security, and they went to random selection, and so they. I forgot what your question was, but
the movements. Like, are there actual like groups that are trying to stop it?
Yeah, well, there's definitely people that speak out.
Okay, yeah, the airport thing. I actually flew. I was in the airport last weekend, and I noticed there was a woman with a headdress on, and she had a little boy with her, and I think that they were waiting for their dad or something, and I'm assuming it was a dad or someone, and they were with the security at the airport. Like, he was farther up in line, and I could just see everybody around. It was just at the Salt Lake City airport. I could see everyone around just looking at him and wondering why he's talking to security. And it could have been just trying to fix it. It could have been nothing, but it is really sad to see that they are sought out in airports, and that they're kind of called out discriminated against everyone else in airports because of what's happened.
I was reading another article that was talking about how Arabs are picked out for, the random selection they do. They pick people to go through all their bags. And I was reading that some are saying that it's not really random, and they just kind of pick people that
they look
they could look suspicious. But usually that is weird toward race. They look suspicious because of the color of their skin. They look suspicious because of the headdress that they're wearing. And so there's a lot of people that are upset about that, and which kind of leads me into we're talking about how to fix that, and with the contact hypothesis, they well, I don't know. Do you think that racism could be solved? That racism can be eliminated?
I don't think that it can completely. I think that we can get really far, and I think that people, if we get a lot of people to speak out and to really show what's going on, like more inside the different races, I think that it can like lead to movements in different like organizations stopping that. But there will always be those Americans with their stronger opinions, and not just Americans, but every race with their stronger opinions and a little more stubborn and won't let those opinions go. So I really don't think it will ever like completely be stopped.
I agree with you. I mean, there can obviously be attempts to stop racism
And change, maybe it gets better, but
yeah, I think it can get better, but I don't think that it could be completely eliminated. I mean, there's a contact hypothesis that it creates more tolerant attitudes. Like if people work together to eliminate it, and if everyone has the same goal, and if there's someone from a higher authority supporting everything. But I feel like to get everyone on board with that would be really difficult.
I think so too.
I mean, I think there can be improvements, but I don't know that racism can be completely eliminated.
I agree.
Any other questions?
I think you answered them all.
Awesome. Thank you.